From Social Prosperity Partners, this is Community Catalysts.
Everybody is welcome here. Everybody is included here. It's done with respect, and we're hoping you find some joy. And so that's been able to persist even through these past 16 years, which have been,
Welcome to Community Catalysts. I'm your host, Matt Lehrman. Strong communities don't just happen. They're built by people who care deeply, who step forward with courage, humility, and a commitment to serve. Some arrive through public roles or formal titles. Others make their mark in more creative and unconventional ways. However they begin, all bring with them hard-earned wisdom and rich human experience. My guest today is Pamme Jones, the executive and artistic director of the Ridgefield Theater Barn in Ridgefield, Connecticut. Since stepping into leadership in 2017, she's helped shape a bold and inclusive vision for what a community theater can be. The Theater Barn, founded in 1965 and now in its 60th season, recently completed a $2.7 million expansion. But what Pamme has helped build goes far beyond bricks and mortar. What I'm especially interested to explore with her is how this transformation didn't start with blueprints or capital, but with a cultural shift led by its governing board, rooted in the words joy, respect, and a bold belief in the power of the arts. The seeds were planted 15 years ago, making this not just a story of planning ahead, but of seeing how far they've come. Pamme Jones, welcome to Community Catalysts.
Thanks, Matt. I'm very, very happy to be here.
Pamme, let's start with this turning point 15 years ago. As we were preparing for today, you told me something about an unproductive board meeting that ultimately sparked a new strategic vision. Tell me about that. And were you there for that experience? What was the genesis of what we're going to talk about today?
Well, I was a executive member of the board of directors, and we were, a small country community theater, and we had recently hired someone on a very small stipend to be our facilities manager so that when we needed fire inspections or the toilets weren't working or whatever, we had someone that we could call to come in and do that work. And we needed to buy some light bulbs. And we had some board members that would not allow me the authority to empower our facilities person to buy light bulbs without bringing them forth with choices to the board to make that decision.
This was a micromanaging kind of board.
This is a micromanaging working board. And so after that, I said, anybody want to go grab a drink? So we went out to one of the places, that sometimes we go here in town. And I said, well, I don't know about the rest of you, but I'm not going to be able to continue on in this way. It doesn't feel right to me. It's not productive. And I'm not sure I want to be part of an organization that needs board approval to buy light bulbs. And that started a conversation with 4 or 5 of us that had big dreams and big ideas for the theater. And so we committed to literally a month of Sundays. We graciously were granted a room to meet in with one of the local real estate agencies, I think. And for a month, every Sunday, we went in for 3 hours with flip charts and Sharpies and talked about what we wanted the Ridgefield Theater Barn to be, what we thought that would look like, and what would it take for us to get there. And after a month, we had a pretty solid idea of what we wanted to do and a new mission statement. So we then brought that to the board at large and we said, we're going to vote on this and this is the way we're moving forward. And maybe some of you want to come with us and maybe you don't, and that's okay. And you can imagine that there was resistance from some people. And then I spent about 6 months sitting in people's living rooms or at their dining room tables and holding their hands while they came to the conclusion themselves that they were not coming forward with us on this new vision. And to be clear, this new vision was that we were going to be a community theater where our culture was steeped and the bedrock was inclusion, respect, and joy. Because if we put that down as the foundation and the culture of our organization, we knew great artists would want to come and work with us. We knew great people would be attracted to the work that we're doing because that's what all human beings crave, right? They want to be respected, they want to be heard, they want to be included, and they want what they do, especially if it's their free time, volunteering, donation, whatever, they want it to be something that brings them joy.
It's really easy to throw out words like inclusion, respect, and joy and think, well, these are noble kinds of things, right? The thesaurus can pull this out pretty quickly. In the moment, in the summer, in the time that this group was actually meeting to do this, did this feel significant and major? What was the nature of advancement that was going on here? You were giving birth to something new, right?
Yes, and it was painful. We already had. I used the light bulb discussion as one example, but that's just one example in a long line of very painful, difficult things that were happening, whether it related to the next show that was going up on the stage or the relationship between the director and the actors or the lighting designer. There were so many of these things that were causing anxiety and pain because the lens was very self-serving. No one was looking at the whole. And so we already had a lot of pain, and we knew like the light bulbs were the breaking point. It wasn't about the light bulbs. It was about the lack of respect to buy light bulbs. We already had that pain. So we were fine. We were like, well, what's a little more pain? And it was very painful. I would say the first year and a half is painful. And I would say that of those 5 to 7 people that we had to sit, directly and, speak to, there's 2 that still will leave a function if I come in. And that's hard. And it makes me sad, but it's better for the whole.
I'm going to come back and ask you about the human dynamics of that in just a minute. But I think it's worth spending just an extra beat on this evolution that happens. There are small nonprofit organizations whose board of directors is deeply involved in the management and operation of the organization. And that's not a pejorative in saying that. Mm-hmm. It's just the reflection that this is how people want to spend their time, and this is the organizing method, and they want to do this together. Some organizations reach a point, an evolutionary point, where they have to distinguish governance from operation. When an organization makes that split, and honestly, it sounds like you made that split with the question, how many board members does it take to screw in a light bulb? And when you got to that specific question, the realization that as a board, we could govern, we could set the policy, and we could delegate to dedicated people, professional people at some point to actually make this happen. That, I want you to talk about that spark, that recognition. Did you go into this discussion knowing that was what was going to happen? Or did you have to struggle through it in order to arrive at the conclusion that was made?
So we had to struggle a little bit. I think there was a group of us that we did know, and I'm not saying we knew it because we're more enlightened or more educated or had more experience. It was just like when you know something in your core to be true. And then there were the people that said, oh, yes, we want this change. You're right. This is good. This is, we want this. And then they really don't want the change. They only want the change as it serves their point of view. So let's say it was the person on our board who sort of oversaw the costume shop, right? They were, oh, yes, all of the change, but they really, not where they were concerned, didn't want the change. So that was hard, and it's hard to realize that you're going to be separating. It's hard to realize. Some of the people that we said goodbye to in that year were people who had given decades. And how do you honor that service and respect that service and not give the impression that you're just throwing out the bathwater?
So let's talk about that.
Yeah.
If you could go back in time and do it differently, what would you do?
I think one thing that would have been great is to have had that realization earlier than we did, and then been able to manage it softer over time. But when we made that decision and had that board meeting and we knew it couldn't continue like that, there was no way to go back and manage that gently. I still think we did an amazing job of moving forward and allowing people to leave. That was really important to us, that people were allowed to leave. Some of them, it took a couple of dinners. Some of them, it took many conversations. But in the end, they saw. And once we started to put the governance in place, then that was powerful too, to start to put these policies and governance procedures in place. And, when the rubber hits the road, like, how are we really going to do this? That was that second catalyst, that second round of people was like, oh, no, well, we're not staying.
Let's fast forward. Let's get to 2017. You step into a leadership role and grounded in inclusion, respect, and joy. Tell us some of the challenges and responsibilities that you faced upon stepping into the position.
Well, it's interesting because my early years here before the pandemic kicked in was also the Me Too movement, in the theater, film, and television community. So there was a little bit of a reckoning. And what I found interesting on the community level is, and I just alluded to it a little bit more, well, we're all volunteering. So, and we were like, actually, no. And so the first real test of inclusion, respect, and joy came when we had a show that was going to open in 3 weeks. And I had to fire the director for an abusive environment. Everybody else was ready to walk. And so I went to the board and I said, this is it. Are we talking? Is this what we believe in? Is this what we're doing? Or is this not what we're doing? Because this is what needs to happen. And that is unheard of on the community theater level. It is unheard of keeping anybody to task like you would at a corporation or anything, where you have goals, you have to timelines, all those things you're accountable for. There is a culture you are accountable to being a part of. And that was our first test. And I had to do that. And it was terrible. It was terrible. And the person who came in to step in and direct was from the board of directors, because we're still a working board in some ways. And that's how it was set up. And that was when it was revealed to us that particular director was not really on the same page. And that was a tough trial time. But now we're not afraid to do that anymore. We're not afraid to, whether the show isn't coming together, so maybe we need to stop and postpone it, look at the calendar, let's rearrange, let's just hold on a minute, or whether we need to make a major personnel change, whether it's the lead actor, the producer, the sound engineer, whatever it is. When you are committed to a core of ideals, everything is led from that. And if it's not, then it's not aligned, and you have to make a change. And instead of that coming back to bite us and getting you know how it is in the small community theater. There's a lot of gossip. There's a lot of intersectionality amongst all the theaters and the actors and the designers and everything. It did exactly the opposite. It made everyone knock on our door and say, let us in. We want to work. We want to work there. What can we do? How can we get on a show? How can we help? How can I join? What can I do?
You're saying that the ability to assert inclusion, respect, and joy, even though you had to draw a hard line over a bad situation that was happening internally, that the act of doing that actually attracted more people to want to be involved with and support the organization? What's the lesson of that? Yeah.
We felt that. We've so believed in it. Or maybe we're just naive and dumb, but we so believed in that. We didn't see it going any other way. And when we had our first test, and believe me, I was up a lot. I was, probably physically sick over it and a little bit scared, but we have never regretted that. We have never regretted that. It was unbelievable how that action really changed everything for us. That was really more than making the decision. But when people saw, like you said, who's the third that doesn't know, they're waiting to see what you do, like, oh, inclusion, respect, joy, whatever. What does that mean? And then like that.
I'm really struck by how when I do strategic planning for so many organizations and you get to the part of the strategic plan where you list values, that words appear there. And oftentimes they're noble words and they're great sounding words, but they're not grounded in the actual way the organization works. Pam, can I put you on the spot and just ask you, in concrete terms, how does inclusion, respect, and joy permeate your organization? How is it reflected in ways that you can actually point to today?
It has to do with how all of our people speak to each other. In the arts, there has always been a wide swath of forgiveness for quirky, emotional, passionate behavior and interaction. And if you're respectful, then those things are disrespectful in some manners, and so they're not tolerated. It doesn't mean we run around, I don't like the way you said that. It's a process. Some people can come along in the process, and some people we don't invite back again, and that's okay. So that's one practical thing. We have worked really, really hard. We are in Fairfield County, Connecticut, that cannot get more homogenous if we tried. It just can't get more homogenous. I was very, very lucky that during the pandemic, the Cultural Alliance of Western Connecticut, a wonderful, amazing woman who I should introduce you to, Lisa Scales, started a Walking in Their Footsteps program and dialogue about anti-racism and DEI workshopping. Of course, we had a lot more time there, so I could meet with these people every Wednesday for 2 hours for 9 weeks to learn, which was such a gift. But, I remember, and it was a very safe space you could talk. I said, Lisa, this is the arts. Our doors are open. Everybody knows that. We accept everybody. That's the way it is. We're all artists. And she said, it's not enough that your doors are open. You got to go out and shake a hand and invite people in. And we went, what? What? And so we started to make a concerted effort. Who lives in our town? We started to offer all of our children's programming is if you need financial help or you need support, we turn no one away. So we've opened up to expand families to families outside our normal geographic reach. And some people drive an hour and a half to bring their kids here for our programming after school because they know they're going to be in an environment where they're going to see other children who look like them and they're going to be included and it's going to be joyful. When you ask me practical, so that's one thing that we did. The inclusion is a lot harder because inclusion can mean a lot of things, right? It doesn't just mean race. It could mean political points of view. We have a resident improv troupe here. And within that microcosm of our improv troupe, we have some real strongly opinionated people from all different points of view politically. And I can tell you that this group is tighter and more congenial and more supportive of each other because we're not going to have things like that devolve. That's not what we're doing here. If you want an outlet to do that, you can go find that, but that's not what we're doing here. Everybody is welcome here. Everybody is included here. It's done with respect, and we're hoping you find some joy. And so that's been able to persist even through these past 16 years, which have been,
What I'm hearing you say is these words, inclusion, respect, and joy, emerge out of the behaviors of the organization. They weren't words that were applied to the organization to which you're aspiring to live.
Right. There is so much freedom in having core beliefs that you really believe in because there's still hard decisions to be made, but either you're looking for alignment always. And of course, I understand I'm speaking from the enormous privilege of doing mission-based work. I know that that's a privilege. Not everybody has the power to do that every day when they get up and go to work and provide for their families or do whatever it is that they need to do. So I know that that's an enormous privilege, but I would argue that that can be applied everywhere, even in the largest corporation, that you can have core values that you are aligned with, and that makes it, then there's enormous freedom because you're not always second guessing. You're not always trying to find, you're not always trying to like backfill something in. Does it align or does it not align? There's freedom.
Pam, I have to ask, in the current political environment, the word inclusion is one of those lightning rod words. Have you encountered any resistance or pressure or any feedback that causes you maybe not to change the sensibility behind it, but to change the word that you use to name it?
We've talked about it. We wondered about it. Ultimately, we decided we weren't, we've been here. We're going to start our 61st season in October. We have a long history and legacy in the town of Ridgefield, which is a very interesting town. It's the first town in Connecticut to get a designation from the state of having a cultural district. So the arts and culture here are the engine that makes this town run. And that's a little bit unusual. We're a small town. We don't have as much money as Greenwich. It's not as wealthy as Westport, but it's a really important part of our town. We largely, again, either because we're just really dumb or I don't know, but we largely don't rely on, we never have relied on government federal funding, never, except for some ARPA money and the Save Our Stages Act during the pandemic. And the state of Connecticut, maybe in a good year, we would get $6,000 a year. In a bad year, we get $1,000 a year. Like that money has never been significant or meaningful to us. So if there was something that came down, some sort of edict, and we're lucky in Connecticut as opposed to, other states in this country that are arts organizations are really going to have some challenges. But we just decided that no, that was gonna stay. And I'll argue all day what inclusion means. We can sit down and talk about what inclusion means all day long.
Pam, every nonprofit organization has a mission statement. Does your organization have a vision statement as well? And do you know it off the top of your head?
So we've had inclusion, respect, and joy. Those are our foundations. Theater is community. And our vision is that this building and our organization can serve as a place where adults and children can come and explore their creative side, maybe discover something they never even did before, or come back to it after raising their children and giving up their professional career, and a place where people who aren't creatives, who aren't artists, can come, take a class, use the space, pull back the curtain a little and observe, or make a contribution. Even if it's like we have our laundry ladies. They just like to come here and do the costume laundry. That's all they want to do. But they want a clean, nice, organized space to work in where everybody's kind, and that's the vision.
Actually, Pam, with all due respect, your vision is the three words that you led with, which is theater is community.
Yeah, that's the vision.
I wonder what lessons you would tell someone who is in an organization that feels like it's maybe they're stuck, maybe they've not recovered fully from the pandemic or the economic stress that's happened or other societal things that are going on right now. And they're just trying to figure out, how do we bring people together to articulate the next iteration of what we're going to be? What's your advice to them?
So, a rising tide raises all ships, right? Don't lead or react from a place of fear. That'll kill you faster than anything. That doesn't mean you have to have all the answers and everything has to be all lined up and now you're just checking boxes. But it shouldn't scare you to go out there and become a part of your community in a way that maybe you didn't think before. Maybe you're going to start attending all of the lectures. If you're so lucky to have an amazing local library, maybe attend lectures. Get to know, who are these people that are coming to the lectures? Who are these people doing the adult education? Who's at the music in the park? lean into your community. Find out who lives there. Find out and see who's on your side. There are people who don't. We've been here 60 years. We still get people every year who say, oh, I lived here 30 years. I never knew you guys were here. It's like a knife in the heart, but what are you going to do? It's the way it is. Don't lead from fear. Don't be scared to put yourself out there. Don't be scared to have a bold vision and do the hard work it takes. If you know what you're doing, and I don't mean like you're educated, you have all the skills. If you know what you want to achieve and you have an organization that's of like mind and working towards that goal, don't be scared to make a hard decision to say, you can't come with us. Don't be scared to make, like, maybe there was someone who was in charge of your business development for 11 years. Maybe they have to go. You can still do that, like we talked about, with integrity, respect, keeping emotions and legacy intact, but don't be afraid to make those decisions, because growth only comes with change and change only comes with pain.
Pam, the 2.7 million capital campaign completely done, right? The construction for that pretty much complete as well at this point?
Everything is, the building is done. We ran out of money, so like the downstairs kitchen isn't exactly finished, and we haven't outfitted the black box theater with everything that we want. We have a small balance that we worked with our local bank, our uber hyper local bank. And we have an unbelievable deal for 5 years. If we have to take 5 years to pay it off, we will. We would prefer not to. We're working with the state for a bonding package for that. And we're also continuing to find funding in other ways. And we're thinking, we're pursuing, because we have such a large children's program here, in order to be inclusive, right? We have to be able to work with a wide range of emotional, physical, social, artistic abilities. We're going to need staff and support for that. So we have another group that's just looking to put some funds in place so that we can support the RTBK staff and support that programming. But at the end of the day, our shows and our programming and everything, we're keeping the building running, we're keeping the staff going, and we'll get rid of the construction. That'll get gone.
So before we go, tell me about the upcoming season. What is going to be there? What should people be paying attention to? Why should someone make the trip all the way to Ridgefield, Connecticut?
Well, I just happen to be the town's co-chair for the very catchy Ridgefield Commemorates America at 250 committee. And the governor of Connecticut, by the way, the state is not funding anything, so it's just more of a, let's talk about it in this way. He really has asked municipalities to lean into the meaning of the Declaration of Independence and what does it mean to be an American citizen today. And as I mentioned before, in Ridgefield, being the arts and culture, the first arts and culture designation in the state, we have an unbelievable community of 26 arts and culture organizations that are amazing. The Ridgefield Theater Barn thought seriously about this, so we're opening our season with Thornton Wilder's Our Town, because it is the greatest play about American life and family and community, and it continues to endure. So we're leaning into that. And then we're ancillary to that, we are doing a This Is Our Town campaign, which we're trying to engage businesses, nonprofits, community organizations, service organizations, and doing both a video and visual initiative to talk about what it means to be part of our town. What does it mean to make a life here, to make a difference here? And then if you jump forward to May of 2026, we're commissioning a new work, which we're co-producing, about Sybil Luddington, who is a lesser known than Paul Revere, a freedom writer. Her father was a commander who was stationed in Danbury, Connecticut. And when the British started burning from New Milford and Newtown all the way down to Westport, she got on her horse and rode to tell people all the way down to Westport. So we are working with the great Martin Robinson and Annie Evans. Martin has been Mr. Snuffleupagus for 40 years on Sesame Street. And this is a play with puppets. And it's about Sybil. It's about her life and about her ride and what it all means. And so those are the two things that we're doing to lean into sort of that commemoration theme of the year. So we're pretty proud of those things.
It's going to be an exciting year.
It's going to be an exciting year. There's lots more.
Congratulations on all your success. Pamme Jones,
Thank you.
thank you for being open to this conversation. It's been wonderful talking to you. I shouldn't have said congratulations. I should have said break a leg.
It's okay.
Thanks for joining me.
It's been my joy and my honor. Thank you so much, Matt.
Thanks again to my guest, Pamme Jones, Executive and Artistic Director of the Ridgefield Theater Barn in Ridgefield, Connecticut. Pam's story reminds us that transformation doesn't always begin with a plan or a budget. Sometimes it begins with a conversation about values, about culture, about the kind of community we want to create. Her leadership shows what's possible when you build with clarity, conviction, and a deep commitment to community. Hey, this show is all about real-world leadership, and we'd love to include your voice in that conversation. So here's a question for you. If you could reinvent your organization from the ground up, what 3 values would you start with? Pam named inclusion, respect, and joy. What are yours? Call 602-688-2724 and leave me a message. Your insights just might be featured in a future episode. And if you're leading in your community, whether on a board, a council, or through public service or on a nonprofit, use the podcast guest link in the show notes to introduce yourself. Your story might be exactly what another leader needs to hear. If today's conversation resonated with you, please follow the show and leave a review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you're listening. Your comments help more local leaders discover these conversations. Community Catalysts is edited by Nick Living the Dream Tantillo. Our executive producer is John Little. I'm Matt Lehrman of Social Prosperity Partners. Thanks for listening. We'll be back soon with another Community Catalyst.